Welcome to the Backyard Bouquet podcast, where stories bloom from local flower fields and home gardens. I'm your host, Jennifer Galizia of the Flowering Farmhouse. I'm a backyard gardener turned flower farmer located in Hood River, Oregon. Join us for heartfelt journeys shared by flower farmers and backyard gardeners. Each episode is like a vibrant garden, cultivating wisdom and joy through flowers. From growing your own backyard garden to supporting your local flower farmer, the Backyard Bouquet is your fertile ground for heartwarming tales and expert cut flower growing advice. All right, flower friends, grab your gardening gloves, garden snips, or your favorite vase because it's time to let your backyard bloom. Hey there, flower friends. Before we dive into today's episode of the Backyard Bouquet, I want to share something exciting with you. Have you ever thought about creating your own digital course? I'm talking about taking something you already know and love, whether it's gardening, flower arranging, or any other passion, and turning it into a course you can sell again and again. Sounds pretty amazing, right? Well, I've got just the thing to help you find out if you're ready to dive into the world of digital courses. My mentor, Amy Porterfield, has created a quick 2-minute quiz that'll tell you exactly that. It's called 3 Types of People Are Replacing Their Income with a Digital Course. Are you one of them? Amy has been helping people just like you and me create successful digital courses for over 15 years. She's identified 3 categories of people who can easily transform their knowledge into a profitable course. The best part? You don't need to be an expert. I took the quiz myself and was amazed at how spot on it was. It even gives you a few steps to get started if you find out you've got that course creating potential. And let me tell you, turning my love for flowers into something that can help others and bring in extra income has been a game changer. So if you're curious about whether you've got what it takes to create a digital course, head over to the show notes and click on the link to take the quiz. It's quick, it's free, and who knows? It might just be the first step towards something big. Now let's get back to today's episode. Hey, flower friends. Joining us today on the Backyard Bouquet are Christopher, Tomaso, and Wyatt Thomas, partners at Darcy's Dahlias. Based in Hilliard, Ohio, their farm specializes in growing vibrant and varied dahlias, offering beautiful cut flowers from summer to fall. Today, Christopher and Wyatt are here to share their journey and how they've managed to turn their vision into Darcy's Dahlias. Gentlemen, welcome to today's show. Can you start by telling us what inspired you to start Darcy's Dahlias?
First and foremost, thank you so much for having us. We're so happy to be here.
It's such an honor to chat with you.
Awesome. Well, we started Darcy's Dahlias kind of organically. We were hobby growers prior to, for several years. Obviously, we both have been gardening for a very long time. And then in 2022, we decided to ramp up a little bit, going from about 10 to 12 dahlias to 100. And then, as happens with many flower farmers, we ramped up quite significantly the following year. In 2023, we grew over 1,000. And this year...
That's a big jump.
It was quite the jump. But it worked out really well, thankfully. And this year, we are growing about 1,500 on our property.
Amazing. So you went from around 10 dahlias to 100 to 1,000 and to now about 1,500. So you have 10 times your production several times in the last few years, which is incredible. So you were hobbyist dahlia growers or hobbyist flower growers? Take me back in time.
Yeah, so at least for myself personally, I really started getting into gardening a lot more in 2016. Really fell in love with hydrangeas, gladiolas, just, typical flower beds and things like that. And was just growing a few dahlias here and there. And then really jumped into the dahlia craze, if you will, in 2022 after watching Growing Floret, as many people fall in love with flower farming after watching that. And that's pretty much how it happened.
Yeah, she has inspired lots of people to start flower farming over the last decade. It's pretty incredible to see the numbers of people growing flowers these days. What about you, Wyatt? How did you get started?
Yeah, big thing. His love of dahlias is always something that I was always supportive of and always kind of interested in. My mother is a big homemaker. She is very involved in her flower beds my whole life. Like that was our summer. Our summer break was, making sure chores and flower beds and stuff were looking nice. And I've always loved just making a house look kept and pretty out front. And now it's developed into a lot more. I love dahlias, yes, but I love a lot of the other flowers too. I'm big on all the other fillers and everything such. So enjoy it a
So,
lot.
so do you strictly grow dahlias?
Oh no. So we grow about 1,500 dahlias, and then we grow snapdragons, eucalyptus, lisianthus, zinnias, celosia, the whole, general good flowers. Started planting a lot of perennials this year. So yeah, expanded more next year too.
Who is your current market that you sell your flowers to?
All local, actually. We just finished our flower stand, if you will. So we have it on wheels that we pretty much roll out of our garage and directly onto the front of our property. And we just fill it about twice a week right now. We have 2 signs at the end of our street, and locals just come by and scoop them up.
That's awesome. And so that's your primary means of moving your flowers is through the flower stand.
Yes, we do actually sell wholesale to some local florists as well.
Okay. So help us paint a picture here for those that aren't familiar with where you're located.
Mhm.
How big of a space are you growing on?
I'd say less than a half acre.
Okay.
So we live in a suburb of Columbus in Hilliard, about 10 minutes from downtown Columbus. And basically, our home is my grandparents' old home. They passed away in 2017.
Sorry.
And so I moved in here. Thank you. And actually, I grew up in the house next door.
Oh,
Still,
wow.
my parents live there. So technically, half of Darcy's Dahlias is in their yard, which we've been very, very blessed to have them allow us to use their space as well.
So you're in an urban setting then.
Definitely. Yes.
So you're literally opening up a residential garage, pushing a flower stand out, and people come to your neighborhood to see your flowers.
Absolutely.
That
Yeah.
is
Actually, the
awesome.
main road we're off of, it's almost like not an actual highway, but it's very, very busy road. So, in our opinion, it's our own little slice of paradise around, a lot of craziness and loudness.
Can your neighbors then see where you're growing the flowers from the street?
Yeah, absolutely. We've actually had a couple followers reach out to us and say, "Oh my gosh, we saw your snapdragons just driving by," things like that, which is really awesome to see.
So have you basically converted your yard into your flower farm then?
Most of it. There's still some grass out there, but next year it probably won't be there anymore.
So kind of tell us about that building out of your farm then. I mean, I think a lot of people that are listening to the Backyard Bouquet are backyard gardeners or small scale flower farmers. And so hearing from the two of you how you have taken a residential setting, and it sounds like you have 2 lots and are producing a ton of flowers on not a huge amount of space, are being very successful in a very short amount of time. So help us understand the journey to get to where you are today. So you decided in 2022 to make this a business, correct?
Yes. So, like he said, obviously, I initially was growing dahlias, and then he kind of encouraged me, hey, let's make this into something more because we saw the impact that it can have. So, we tilled a very small section of our yard, grew those 100 dahlias along with, I think, just zinnias and celosia that year, and then saw the potential at that point. Then we had uh, a large amount of the yard tilled, which, obviously We don't till anymore at this point, but initially it was just grass, so we had to do something. And then have just been expanding really from there. This year we built a lot of raised beds, and then an additional field just for filler flowers.
Filler flowers are so important.
Absolutely. Yes. The first go around, we realized, well, these are beautiful dahlias, but don't make great bouquets when it's just a dahlia.
You're going to use a lot of dahlias to fill your bouquet if you don't have filler flowers.
Right.
It's amazing how you can make a bouquet with 15 dahlias and be the same size as one with 5 dahlias when you use the right filler flowers in there.
Exactly.
So what are some of the filler flowers you're growing there?
This season, the biggest, obviously, biggest one, zinnias. Everybody loves a good zinnia. The floret ones have been amazing this year for us.
They're incredible.
Like the best ones we've ever grown. If you have, you need them, they're worth it 1,000%.
Totally.
Herslosia is also amazing this year too. Eucalyptus is probably just one of our biggest things, just how strong the smell is with dahlias not smelling. It just brings a little more life to a bouquet. And then jumped into Lisianthus big this season, our first year with it, and we were obsessed. If it was up to me, I might have equal fields of dahlias and Lisianthus. So beautiful. And just growing a little scabotia, status, just trying out a few things. Our biggest thing was just, learn a few good things, get good at a few things, get your set bouquet there, and then start introducing new things, having fun with, different things, which is what status and scabotia, Veronica is for us this year. It's a lot of these new test things that we want to try out.
Yes. I love that you said getting good at a few things before adding more. Because a lot of times I think people it's kind of that eye candy when you get that seed catalog. And I'm totally guilty of it. I don't even want to know how many dollars of seed packets I have sitting in boxes.
We were just talking about that maybe a half hour ago. We probably have 100 different flowers from seed that we've never touched, never opened the packets yet, because we just, we got overwhelmed. But I think it's important to make mistakes, obviously.
Absolutely. Let's talk about some of those mistakes, because you are only 3 years into your flower farming journey, which I think offers a unique viewpoint for our listeners. What have been some of the challenges, especially growing small scale in a residential setting?
Yeah, definitely. Probably our biggest things, to work on. Obviously, our soil is a residential area that hasn't been touched. His grandparents, his parents, they weren't farming it. It was grass, So making sure our soil could support and have life and nutrition in it was definitely a big thing for us. From adding organic materials to I add a lot of earthworms into the ground, just naturally into the field, whatever we can to start breaking stuff down and make it, better. For all the flowers has been the big focus. In this year, our soil is starting to look dark. We're starting to get that dark mocha-y color to it. And so we're starting to see that health and see it in our flowers for sure.
It's amazing. You said third year, you're starting to see your soil improve. I think that's such an important reminder that soil health doesn't improve overnight.
Oh, 1,000%.
Definitely not. Yeah, we have very heavy clay soil here. Mm-hmm. And that was a very big challenge, especially last year. We had a lot of water and lost quite a few of our plants due to that. And it wasn't just the soil. It was also how we built out the rows, which we had to change this year. But, everyone's environment's different. So we're just writing things down as we go and trying to fix them for the next year. Because as you know very well, something might not work this year, but you kind of can't fix it immediately. You have to have patience and work towards that goal for next year.
Definitely. Patience is such a key thing in flower farming and even gardening. We're on Mother Nature's time.
Exactly.
And I always look at those mistakes, I'm doing quotation marks with my hands, as learning opportunities. I mean, if we look at it, we're going to be better the next year from these
That is
things.
exactly how we look at it. Like, it's ultimately these little mistakes can just help build that farm and build what your structure is going to be. Last year, it was hard not to get discouraged at times with how our field was flooded. But this year, we focused on, okay, well, how do we make our grass absorb this water? How do we, what can we add to level out these rows and such to make that better?
I love that after 3 years, you are already seeing results from improving the soil. Can we talk about other challenges that you have faced in starting your flower farm?
Absolutely. Well, for one instance, severe weather is something we've really been dealing with a lot lately here, with how drastic the weather change has been in general. Actually, in February of this year, we were hit by a tornado.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, completely took out our neighbor's house.
Oh,
Thankfully,
no.
it did knock down our fence, but we had very minor damage. And we do have huge trees in our backyard, so it could have been much, much worse. Unfortunately, they decided to not rebuild. And actually, their fence provided a lot of protection, if you will, from wind, because we do seem to get a lot of wind here. So that's just been something that we've had to, obviously build a new fence and kind of go from there as far as, how to improve that. But staking dahlias as well, added more T-posts, more support this year, just to ensure that they, if any more severe weather comes through, which I think we're having some tonight, maybe, that they stay up and stay looking good and healthy.
I'm so sorry about that tornado. That is so scary.
Thank you. It's something that you never really think will happen. It's funny enough, my favorite movie has always been The Wizard of Oz, and I was always obsessed with tornadoes. And I was actually outside and watched their house come down. I shouldn't have been outside, but I didn't think that was ever going to happen. So it was a traumatizing experience, but it also kind of gave us a new fire inside of us just to rebuild a little bit and go from there.
Wow. I'm just speechless. That is truly frightening. Here, we don't have tornadoes, but we have fires. And I was just telling you before we were recording that there is literally a fire to the west, north, east, and south of us right now because of lightning. And my husband and I were talking the other day that we both moved here in the early 2000s before we knew each other. And we don't ever remember the summers being filled with fires and smoke. And now it just seems the last 8 years have been continually filled with smoke, and extreme heat, which changes everything. And so you're constantly on your toes, just trying to figure out what's next with Mother Nature. So I hope you don't have too severe of a storm tonight.
Appreciate that. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. You were mentioning the dahlias, though, in the wind. Where I am, we get a lot of wind too. We're the windsurfing capital of the world, which is why I moved here. But I have to stake my dahlias also. So what do you do for wind protection for your dahlias?
Yeah, so currently we do T-post with trellis netting, 6-inch trellis netting across the whole rows. Generally, we plant all of our dahlias by size, a size range, so they all can generally support each other, while also making sure I don't have to do like a bunch of various nettings. So that's helpful. That's truly been the biggest thing, starting out with that first layer of just a true like net support to give them many outlets to be supported. And then this year, started doing nylon cord, doing the zigzags of nylon cord throughout the top rows. Just one for the look of it a little bit, and just once they get to that bigger stage of that neck support, they don't really need super much, but having that base layer of net down towards the bottom is really helpful for us.
Absolutely. Last year, I did the Hortonova netting at about 18 inches high to support the base. And then I did another netting layer at about my waist. And my tall varieties, I did one again about chest level, about 48 inches tall, which was overkill because it made it impossible to harvest the dahlias. So this year I just used the baling twine because I didn't have the bandwidth to do the Hortonova. But that's a great idea for the wind to really stabilize your dahlias at the base. And it'll be much easier to harvest not having that Hortonova netting at the top.
Doesn't affect any, lateral shoots coming out or anything. So that definitely makes it a little easier to manage the plants.
Yeah.
Totally.
Corral them.
Yes.
It is quite the pain at harvest time. Well, I should say when we're pulling up tubers, they can definitely get caught in that netting.
That's the worst part. Yeah.
But
do you take the netting down first or you take the tubers out first?
We tried last year to take the netting down first. It didn't work out so well. I'm not sure what we're going to do exactly this year, but not how we did it last year for sure.
Luckily, we won't have as much netting this year as we did last year because we did the same as you last year, multiple rows of that netting, and it just became too much, and even just made putting it in the organic bins hard, having all that net around them, having to break them apart and stuff to get it out. So yeah.
Last year, I first started by pulling and trying to get them out of the netting, and I didn't start taking them out till after frost. So once the dahlias, for anyone listening that isn't familiar, after the frost, they go to total sogginess. And it's this terrible, slimy mess of pulling it off the netting. But I had 2,000 dahlias last year, and it took me so long to get them all out. By the time I got to the end, it was actually easier because the dahlias had dried out and all that extra moisture. And so then they just broke right off the Hortonova netting. So if you are struggling, maybe see if you have any luck with that.
Yeah, let them sit for a little bit. We actually, that's something we did talk about, letting them cure a little bit longer underground this year before pulling them up. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sometimes it's hard depending on what your weather is, if you can leave them or not.
Yeah,
absolutely. And with drastic weather changes, our first frost, our last frost has changed so much over the last few years. And I think that we got a little paranoid, especially last year. Our last frost was sometime in October, but we pulled them out almost immediately when really they should have stayed in much longer. But we've definitely learned from that, and we'll keep them in as long as possible, making sure, obviously, that they don't freeze.
Totally. So what growing zone are you?
6A. Which actually changed since they did change quite a few areas. We were 6B, so not a drastic difference, but we're in 6A now.
So does that mean you went down a growing zone instead of up?
I believe up.
Okay.
Yeah, they adjusted our first and last frost dates.
Okay. So growing zones usually tell people how cold it can get. And so even if I was in the same growing zone as you, my first and last frost dates might be different. When is your last frost date when you can start planting out in the spring?
Typically, in the past, I should say, it was Mother's Day, so mid-May.
Okay.
The last 2 years, our last frost was the middle of April.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
The last 2 years, we've actually planted our dahlias the last week of April, first week of May.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's been wonderful.
Yeah, you get a longer season.
Enjoy the season.
Yeah.
Long season, but.
And so when does your first season-ending frost typically come then?
Typically, I want to say the end of October, early November. We've had, I think 2 years ago, it didn't come until mid-November. And then last year, we did have one very early in October, sadly. But after that, it went back up to 70, 80 degrees. So that's when we were like, we probably shouldn't have pulled them out as quickly as we did, because they didn't completely die out at that point. But,
gotcha.
Each year we just have to see how it's going to be for that year.
It's always the worst, though, when you get that surprise early frost and then it turns beautiful again. You're like, I should still have my dahlias.
Literally.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, it's so fascinating to me how you have a longer growing season, and I'm almost a zone 8 where I am. I'm a borderline zone 7B, 8B. And my growing season is shorter than yours. This year, we had so much rain and coldness after our last frost date that I didn't finish planting my dahlias until June 13th.
Oh my goodness.
So mine are really late this year.
Yeah, we've been noticing our friends in the Pacific Northwest. Obviously, we have always been so jealous of the beautiful climate conditions that most of y'all have. And obviously, this year, seeing so many people affected by the rain and the loss, it's just been so devastating. And I'm so sorry that was the case. But hopefully, fingers crossed for everybody, you guys still have great tuber production and a successful season.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm fortunate because I waited to plant until most of the rain was done. I think I lost maybe a handful. I think there was only 10 of my tubers that didn't come up this year, which for the volume I'm growing I'm pretty happy. I won't complain.
Absolutely.
So as long as the voles and the wireworm, leave them alone, hopefully it'll be a good season. So are you swimming in dahlias now?
Almost
for sure. We did a lot of overwintering dahlias, building up certain stocks and such. So one of our fields is definitely a further ahead, and then our other field was tubers, but those are buds like crazy right now for sure. They're all very established plants, ready to put blooms off for sure. So yeah, we're seeing more buds every day.
Yeah, I'd say about 30, maybe 40% have bloomed already.
Okay.
But the majority have not yet, but they are about to.
Probably within the next 2 weeks, we'll probably see a huge increase.
I know.
Very excited about it.
That's about when this episode will air. You'll probably be swimming in dahlias, and everyone will head over to your Instagram to see all of your blooms. It's you mentioned that you overwintered some of them. Those were tubers you left in the ground?
So we actually pulled some cultivars last fall and actually continued to grow them indoors. We actually somewhat converted our basement into a grow room.
Okay.
And just a couple specific varieties, actually. So they grew out the entire fall, winter, spring in our basement just to increase stock. So we could get a little bit of an early start in that capacity.
So when you said that you were overwintering them and increasing stock, were you taking cuttings?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I love to take cuttings. Obviously, still learning. But the majority of our dahlias now have all come from cuttings, really. We learned the hard way. You don't always have to spend thousands of dollars and buy 20 tubers of one thing when you can increase stock, but obviously you needed to do it the right way, taking precautions with sanitation. It's very important, of course, and just learning as we go. But so far, it's been working swimmingly.
Who is responsible for the cuttings? Do you both do that together, or is there one of you that's in charge of that?
That is a Christopher thing. He likes to sit in the grow room and be a little scientist down there. But yeah, he's definitely responsible for those. But yeah, we definitely separate our jobs a little bit to keep the workloads more focused to each other.
Yeah. And it helps, honestly. I get seasonal depression. A lot of people do. So to still see green, even if it isn't the basement, it's helpful. And you just have a goal in mind and know what these are going to turn into eventually. It might be in 6 months, but it's just a lot of fun for me.
I'm the same way when you are looking outside and it's brown or white covered in snow and it's freezing and you don't want to go outside. That little bit of hope in seeing that cutting growing makes you think about summer. And I totally get it.
All that matters. Absolutely.
So how do you take your cuttings? Do you have any tips or tricks?
Oh, goodness. Well, if it's a tuber, obviously, we try to only take maybe 5 to 6 from that tuber. I don't want to ever overdo it. We want to make sure the genetics stay good. but we use individual scalpels for each and every shoot that we take cuttings for, and then use Clonex. I actually experimented with several different mediums this year. Typically, we just use root riots, which honestly have been fantastic, but we actually tried Oasis, growing in just pure medium this year, and then vermiculite as well, which we got different results from different cultivars, obviously. But
which did you like best?
Probably still root riots, to be honest. Yeah, or just straight medium. We did have really good success with some of the ones with vermiculite, but overall, I think root riots are probably where we're going to stay.
Okay.
Consistency-wise.
It's so fascinating to me because I tried vermiculite for the first time this year, and I had great success with the vermiculite. The tubers formed so much faster than the root riots for me. Mm-hmm. So I haven't fully given up on the root riots, but I was definitely impressed with the vermiculite.
Absolutely.
And so for anyone listening, can you explain what that process is with growing in vermiculite?
Yeah. So pretty much you just take the cutting, put it in the vermiculite, which is very fine grade, or that's typically what I use at least. And then the roots will come from the cutting. And I will say it is a little difficult to know when they're ready.
Yeah.
So we've actually been using these plastic trays so you can kind of see through them, see when actually the roots will form.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So that was very, very helpful. But again, we didn't do a ton in vermiculite, but going to try some more next year for sure.
So what percentage of your dahlias do you think came from cuttings this year?
Oh my goodness.
A lot. I would say half and half this year.
Yeah, probably 50%.
Yeah.
So you did a lot of cuttings.
Yes.
That's a full-time job in the wintertime.
Absolutely. Well, specifically because we are releasing a cultivar next season for someone. So, and we had only had one cutting of that specific cultivar at the beginning of last season. So we wanted to make sure we had as many as possible to plant out this year for the best tuber production. So that's why we really, really went hardcore with cuttings this year.
So you're growing out cuttings for a hybridizer?
Yes. Yeah, we're actually going to be releasing KA shots for Christine Albrecht of Santa Cruz Dahlias next year.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
That's exciting. Maybe you could send me a picture of that and we could include that in the show notes.
Absolutely.
And then people can see that dahlia. So will you be exclusively releasing this one for Christine?
It is. And kind of a funny backstory. We live on Schatz Lane. I have my entire life. And I had seen a picture of it in, I think on Florette's website, and reached out to Christine 3 years ago. It's been at this point, and just to ask to see if she still had it available because it had never been sold at that point. And she did kindly send me a tuber at the time. Sadly, it was incorrectly labeled. So, and at that point, she actually didn't think the cultivar existed anymore. And actually, there was someone that she reached out to, just so happened to have one. And so she was kind enough last spring to send us a cutting. And honestly, I just wanted to grow it for the sentimental value of the name. And then we were presented with the opportunity to release it for her. So we're very, very excited and grateful for that.
That's a huge honor. Congratulations.
Thank you.
She has some beautiful dahlias.
Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite dahlia that you're growing?
I have to think about that one. That we haven't seen yet. Happet Pearl, really excited to see that one. Westerton Gatehouse. Or I'm sorry, not Westerton Gatehouse. Westerton Sunset, I think, is going to be a beautiful addition to our farm this year.
These are ones that you've previously purchased that haven't bloomed yet?
Right, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Some of our big favorites that we've planted, Bloomquist Mojo.
That one just bloomed for me yesterday.
It's the
So
best.
pretty.
One of the best.
Yes.
Gold tip anything, really,
All about
will
it.
always get us. We planted a lot of the Jolly Winnie as well. Jolly Winnie's a big favorite. I love bold color of any sort. Anything vibrant, we're always going to go for. I know a lot of people like the wedding colors and, the neutrals, but the bolder the better for us generally.
It's funny. I always have to remind myself that I serve wedding florists, so I grow a lot of pastel colors, but my CSA subscribers prefer the bold and vibrant colors. So I think you just really have to know your market of who you're growing for.
That's
to have the right
always where
flowers.
we get our most traction for sure. Any of our, anytime we post a white dahlia, it feels like we just are fighting to get on people's feeds with it. But anytime we post something colorful, people love it. They always eat it up. And so they definitely let us know what they like to see.
Yes, people are good at letting you know. It's always interesting too to see, like, when you have multiple different bouquets at a stand or something, to see what people gravitate towards. Usually it's not what I would have gravitated towards. So it's kind of eye-opening sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, my head's spinning. I have got a bunch of questions for both of you. Wyatt, I think it was you that mentioned that you guys split up a lot of the jobs on the farm. Can one of you talk about how do you divide up the jobs to share the responsibility without stepping on each other's toes?
Yeah, for sure. And firstly, obviously, as partners and business partners, we always have to collaborate on everything and try our best to hear each other out. And, we both know what we're talking about and, always have the best interest in mind of Darcy's. So that's always the ultimate goal. Some things, it's just mainly things we like to do. He loves doing the cuttings and waking tubers up and loves dividing, and so I let him conquer a lot of that. But like, I love making sure the dahlias are supported. I love making sure always have everything we need. I love building bouquets and really building anything. I built all of our raised beds. I built our flower stand. Christopher, gets in there. He loves to do all the spraying, as tedious as it can be. He loves to get out there and sprays and everything of that
The
sort.
science part.
Yeah. So we definitely divide and conquer in that sense for sure.
Is this a full-time job for both of you?
I wish. And honestly, that is the ultimate goal. I actually work full time. We both came from corporate jobs. Unfortunately, Wyatt was actually laid off earlier this year, but we have been able to have him not have to get another job, thankfully, at this point in time. But I do work full time, thankfully from home, which is nice, but also can be very frustrating sitting in here knowing what's out there and what can be done. But that is the ultimate goal at some point in time.
Well, it sounds like, Wyatt, yours was maybe a blessing in disguise to allow you to grow the farm.
Most definitely. I didn't really see it coming when it happened. I was replaced to AI, unfortunately, and after, it was kind of a freak out moment, but then it was kind of like, well, what can we do at the time? Like, what can I do to improve, our production, what we're doing? And it opened up a door for me to I was able to get so much of our early season prep done that, like, basically it's able to just walk out and we can plant dahlias, and
Amazing.
Dedicate myself to getting seedlings going and other filler flowers going and making sure that we were set up for, stuff that we didn't have time to do working, and then just the reality of working a 40-hour job that you don't love and just what it's doing to your head. You don't always want to go out and do something right away, and freeing up that mental space also allowed me to open myself up for Darcy's more. So it's definitely been a blessing.
That's such a great way to look at it. And I can pretty much guarantee you that AI is never going to steal your job as a flower farmer.
Exactly.
At least I hope not. We're in big trouble if that happens. So, well, I love your attitude that you have turned an unfortunate event into a really positive thing for your life and your business. So that's really great to see that you're able to grow from that. Let's see here. I have not asked you, and I am curious to know, and I apologize if you've shared this on social media, but I'm sure some of the listeners are curious as well. Neither of you are named Darcy. How did you come up with the name Darcy's Dahlias?
Yes. So Darcy is actually our 9-year-old pug.
Aw.
When we were trying to come up with a name, it was, obviously very difficult. We went through several different options, but then at the end of the day, the one thing we love more than anything in this life is Darcy. She, I can't say enough. She just makes us so very happy every day. And I always like to say that she's the only reason that he said yes, when dating me. So, yeah, that's why we decided to name it Darcy's Dahlias. And we still get messages saying, "Hi, Darcy," and, this, that, and the other. But it's always kind of funny. But yeah, Darcy is our pug.
Well, it's a great name, and that's so sweet that you named it after your pug. So that's another to-do list for you, is I'll need a picture of Darcy to include in the show notes so listeners can see your pug, if that's possible, please.
Of course.
Most definitely.
We are a dog family over here. We were picking up dinner last night because we were just too busy working on the farm and all dirty. So we went and picked up some burritos, and there's a bulletin board and there was a thing for adopting dogs. And we have 2 dogs. And my daughter was like, "Mom, take a picture. Maybe we can convince Dad we need another dog." And we're not getting a 3rd dog yet, but dogs do have a special place in our heart. So I think there is a 3rd dog in our future, just not quite yet. Let's see here. So you mentioned that you are growing out some dahlias for Christine that you're going to be releasing, which is super exciting. Have you previously been selling tubers in the wintertime?
Yeah. So funny you asked that. Last year, we definitely had planned to do a first online sale. We had some other things that came up that were it was just going to be way too overwhelming, to be quite honest with you. So we actually decided to pivot a little bit because we had thousands of tubers that we didn't have space to plant them all, at least I should say. So we actually decided to have a local cutting sale and tuber sale.
Oh, nice.
My dad's actually a pastor, so they have a church about 10 minutes from us, and we very quickly put together a sale there and had an overwhelming response. We actually had people waiting in line an hour before we opened.
Wow.
So it was shocking for us, but it was also just really awesome to see how many people locally wanted to, even if they've done this before, they've never done this before, they just wanted to give it a try. Just from seeing whether it be our photos or our social media, whatever it was, just sparking an interest. Because gardening is therapeutic. It does so much for mental health and just your overall vibe in general. So it was really, really fantastic that happened for us.
That's amazing. So did you sell out at that sale?
We didn't sell out, but we did a lot more than we thought we were going to do in a short amount of time. And actually, my mom came to help out. And, when it's family and you're doing something pretty new, they don't quite understand how popular dahlias or flowers can be and the amazing community that we have. And she actually helped check people out. And her face the entire time, she was just like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe they're so excited." And, it warmed our hearts for them to be able to see that. So
that's amazing. I love when people get excited about dahlias because you just know that they're in for such a treat once they get that planted in. They're going to get that dahlia bug, and you're spreading something really good. It's a healthy addiction for someone to have.
Absolutely.
At least I call it an addiction. My addiction has grown over the years. I keep seeing a plant. Oh, I'll just have one more.
It never stops. It never gets better. It just
Yeah.
progresses.
Yes, totally. You hinted earlier in our conversation that you had some plans for next year. Can you share what's the future hold for Darcy's Dahlias?
Yeah. Really our big focus, and I think a lot of people who are solely in the Dahlia world are hybridizing. We are moving into we have a couple of first year or second year seedlings that we're really liking and watching, and then we have first year seedlings on our farm. My mother actually has a field at her property for us that
Oh,
she
wow.
grows out. And then we are actually getting help from our sister farm, Black Penny Farms, in Marysville, Ohio. They are growing out a couple hundred seedlings for us as well, just to find that next phase, and start getting some things building up for a future release, hopefully.
That's really exciting. So you've been breeding or giving breeding a shot for the last 2 years. Is that right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. I think Aaron and Christine, Aaron from Floret and Christine from Santa Cruz, the two of them have really, really impacted the Dahlia community in such an amazing way.
Literally changed the game for us all.
Totally.
So much.
They've both given so freely of their knowledge that it's really amazing. I'm going to do a little teaser here. Erin's going to be joining us on the podcast in a few weeks to talk about her seed program. So,
that's exciting.
We can't wait.
Yes.
Definitely tuning in.
Yes. I am so excited to chat with her because it's like, she's just such an inspiration. So,
Absolutely.
So grateful for the gifts that both of those ladies have given to the Dahlia and flower communities.
Couldn't agree more.
So going back to you though, with your Dahlia breeding, do you hand pollinate? Do you let the bees do the work? How do you manage your hybridizing?
Our current seedlings that we're working on are just open pollinated, making sure we did a lot of specific planting, purposely planting a lot of dark foliage next to parents we wanted because we want to carry dark foliage over, or try to a lot of white dahlias are the most for creating the most colorful, and we want color, so most of our parents were white dahlias. Very being intentional more so with our open pollination, but I did try to do some hand pollinating last year. I was not very successful, but this year I am gung-ho in it. I've been watching videos. I have been just stressing the importance of introducing great genetics. I think Aaron and Christine both have expressed, you can get any beautiful thing, but it's the point of putting a good gene back into itself over and over again to create that truly, beautiful face, but beautiful plant and beautiful producer and, resistant and so many other factors than a beautiful face. And so we're really diving into that deep.
Absolutely. Yeah. We made sure to, we didn't really grow a lot of open center dahlias, but we did remove any from our fields just to make sure that we were at least getting more consistently doubles from our seedlings. But like you said, we're definitely going to be diving a lot deeper into the hand pollinating game this year, or at least trying to. Fingers crossed for us.
I'm crossing my fingers for you. With yours that you are breeding, you mentioned that you're really looking for strong parent traits and genetics. Are you seeing, I'm always curious because I'm growing my own from seed also. And now that you're a couple years in, are you starting to see any traits come through like on a consistent pattern that you're noticing?
Yeah, I think the first year we had seedlings, they were very short, almost completely open center, floppy, downward facing, or just not an appealing plant structure in general. I think this year, even how we planted them, it's amazing to see how strong a lot of them are with that, perfect 45-degree angle, upward facing, long stems, good structure overall. So we're pleasantly surprised so far at what we're seeing.
That's
and
exciting.
obviously where those seeds came from with good genetics. So all plays into that.
Very cool. Well, I imagine you're probably a couple years out from being able to release any of your own. Have you had any conversations, though? Will they be called Darcy's Dahlias, or will you have a breeding name for them?
We've talked about a few. We also we're silly. We like to have fun. If you talk to our friends and family, we always laugh. We just kind of almost miss the just names a little bit too. We definitely think some important ones will have lines of, and we'll make sure to have that like lineage name back to us. But we also want to have some just names that are going to make people giggle when they see this flower. Just bring some more light into that.
We actually have a list that we make, and then if we think of something, we always write it down, even though we don't have anything named yet. We want to have them prepared just in case one pops out and you're like, you know what, that looks just like that. So, but yeah, there will definitely be Darcy's, whatever it might be. And then actually some of the seedlings that are being grown by his parents, their last name is Baker. So we might be doing like Baker's donut or Baker's croissant. Things
I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So,
something fun.
Yeah.
And she's starting to become competition. I went down there this weekend and she was like, I think I want my own seeds next year. I'm like, okay, calm down. Like, I guess you want a little family rivalry here. That's okay.
It's contagious. My mom is down in Southern California and she did the same thing last year. She sent me a picture. She goes, look, I had told her too that I was trying to cross. And she's like, look, because she had the two varieties. And she goes, look, I've saved the seeds from these. I'm going to try growing them out.
Oh my gosh.
I love
Oh no, my mom got the seeds from the varieties that I didn't.
Oh no.
No, it's all good. For me, if a great dahlia makes it out into the world, that's awesome.
Yes, 1,000%.
Absolutely.
Do you sell your seeds?
We haven't in the past, but we did get a lot of questions about that. So we are considering doing that.
Maybe some
possibly.
open pollinated ones for sure. Let people have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Depends on how much success we have with the hand pollinating, I guess,
For
too.
Sure.
But
make sure you have enough for yourself first.
Yes.
Right.
It's funny this year. Well, 2 years ago, I got rid of all of my open centered and I sell my dahlia seeds in the wintertime. And I'm getting pictures this year. And it's kind of that like nail biting. You get the picture and you're like, I should have kept that seed for myself. I'm really glad it's growing somewhere. But
I think that's what we're most worried about. But, obviously we would be so happy to see a seed that came from us and producing a beautiful flower. That would be fantastic. But yeah, right there with you.
A few friends have some seeds from us from last year and we're just, let them have them. And we're waiting. We're waiting to see what they produce. Excited though.
Yeah. I have to say though, I'd rather someone get a great seedling than something that's all wonky and open centered and then be disappointed that they bought from me. But it's that double-edged sword for sure.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I have another question for you that's more about the marketing and social media side of your business. You said that you enjoy having fun. There's one picture that's kind of stands out to me that I think had thousands of likes on social media. And you did that really cute. You turned your dahlias into like an ice cream cone. Who's in charge of your social media?
So I do all the pictures actually. And I didn't really, I don't want to sit here and say, not to toot my own horn, but I've realized that I have a gift for photography. I've always been a very creative person, both of us really. So I've just been trying to think of different things that we could do. Obviously we love doing dahlia flat lays and things like that, but we want to be more creative. So just kind of had the thought and made him go buy me some ice cream cones. And it turned out a lot better than we expected, obviously. And it was just cute and fun. And it's summertime and, it can be appreciated even in the winter. So, yeah.
That was
We're going to be doing a lot more things like it. We have a lot of ideas in mind. So fingers crossed, you'll be seeing some really cool things here in the future. But yeah.
That's exciting. I'll keep my eyes peeled for it. Now, You've only been growing commercially as a flower farmer or flower farmers for 3 years, but you have grown quite a following on social media. What would you say has been the key to your success in growing your audience online? Because there's a lot of farmers who are trying to establish a brand or a name for their business. What advice can you give?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, it's been tremendous for us, to be honest. Last year at this time, I think we had just under 3,000 followers. We're about to hit 30,000 now,
Amazing.
which is still mind blowing. We both cried when we hit 10,000. So,
That's a big
we-
milestone.
absolutely. And we still try to reply to every single comment. We get just as excited over 50 likes as we do 10,000. Doesn't matter because that's not what it's about. Really, for us, we genuinely want to bring happiness, smiles to the community. I will say, on social media, there's so many ads. I'm not sure if you see them, but everybody has a different opinion on how to get growth from your Instagram and Facebook. Don't post 10 times a day. Do post 10 times a day, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
We
It's
use
overwhelming.
it really is. For us, the first year, like when we first started the Instagram accounts, we tried to do like a couple ads, and it was really, in our opinion now, felt like we wasted a little bit of money. And then we stopped doing that completely and really just wanted to put out beautiful photos and different perspectives and engage with people on a real life basis. We're not too uppity high horse people. We're very normal. I want to talk about the struggles that we have on a daily basis. They're not all perfect if you go out into the field. And that's real life.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just important to really engage with your audience and be honest and upfront and also have fun. Last year, we really didn't create many reels. I'm just not great at coming up with concepts, and I'm a little camera shy maybe at times. But this year, we kind of just started to be silly with it, and it's worked out tremendously.
Well, you've had excellent growth, and I love that you are just real, like you said. People want the realness. They can see the pictures with the beautiful bouquets of flowers, but to really know what it's like to be a farmer or a gardener, I think is a lot more impactful. So thank you for sharing those words of wisdom.
Absolutely.
We have talked about a lot, and I feel like I'm chatting with an old friend right now, and I just met both of you today. Like we could talk for a lot longer. But I want to respect your time because this is busy season where we're all out trying to harvest as much as possible. Is there anything that I have not asked you today that you would like to share with our listeners?
I know locally we're really excited actually to work with some schools next year. We've had some reach out actually to do some programs with elementary kids about gardening, flower farming in general. And I think it's just so very important. Obviously, technology is wonderful. TV is great. Times you need to wind down, but it would be so awesome to see more kids out and learning how to grow things.
Mm-hmm.
So we're really excited to be doing that.
Definitely pushing ourselves to be more involved with our community too. I think that's something we all can do, no matter whether you're a home gardener or whether you have thousands of flowers growing on a farm. I think the biggest thing is you just look around, look at who is there, who are the ones who are cheering you on, who are the ones who are, buying your blooms, who are the ones who are just supporting your business in general and focusing on that local community. Although, so happy for, our social media and the following that we have with it and, all the people there cheering us on. But it's so amazing to also see the people are at home too. It's our neighbors knocking on our doors for bouquets. It's the schools wanting, their students to learn something about nature. It's it's definitely there. And if you look for it, you will find it. I think we all get clouded with what's around us and, like what's not to do, what's this and what's that. And just focus on what you have in your garden, and it just makes you happier for sure.
Yeah.
I love that advice. Well, the two of you, Christopher and Wyatt, you're certainly planting a lot of seeds in your community. Hey, flower friends, just popping in again with something exciting. Do you know you could turn your love for gardening or cut flowers into a digital course? My mentor, Amy Porterfield, has a quick quiz that'll show you if you're one of the 3 types of people who can do just that. And it only takes 2 minutes. The quiz link is in the show notes. Go check it out, and you just might be surprised by the results. All right, let's dive back into today's episode. Well, it's really amazing. Both Christopher and Wyatt, you guys are truly planting seeds in 2 communities, not just one. You have your local community, and you're also planting seeds to a much greater community of gardeners and farmers around the world that are watching what you're doing on social media. And I can't wait to keep following along on your journey, especially as you are growing out some of your own hybrids. So for those that just met you for the first time today, can you share how can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Instagram, it's just Darcy's_Dahlias. Facebook, Darcy's Dahlias. And same with TikTok.
Perfect. Do you have a website also?
Oh yes. I'm so sorry.
Darcy's.Dahlias.com.
Perfect.
Sign up all sale updates and everything there.
Perfect. So anyone that's interested in snagging some of your Dahlia tubers or those KA releases should go sign up for your email list on your website.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Thank you so much. It's been such a joy to chat with both of you today. And I'd love to leave the door open for a future conversation here on the Backyard Bouquet again.
Of course. Thank you so much for having us, and definitely would love to come to chat with you again.
Yeah,
love to have you back.
To be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining me. Happy gardening.
Thank you.
Thank you, flower friends, for joining us on another episode of the Backyard Bouquet. I hope you've enjoyed the inspiring stories and valuable gardening insights we've shared today. Whether you're cultivating your own backyard blooms or supporting your local flower farmer, you're contributing to the local flower movement, and we're so happy to have you growing with us. If you'd like to stay connected and continue this blossoming journey with local flowers, don't forget to subscribe to the Backyard Bouquet podcast. I'd be so grateful if you would take a moment to leave us a review of this episode. And finally, please share this episode with your garden friends. Until next time, keep growing, keep blooming, and remember that every bouquet starts right here in the backyard.